Do you want to learn how to make more money as a roofing contractor? This video is in response to a Facebook poll where 95% of roofing contractors said they'd be interested in hearing about a case study where I took a job from $17,600 to over $45,000. Now, I'm going to teach you 5 basic techniques for how to do that, how to increase your profits on insurance roofing jobs. And then not only am I going to give you those 5 techniques, but I'm going to show you how I applied them in one of my recent jobs. So the first technique that you want to apply is filtering your jobs. You want to make sure you're spending your time where it's going to yield the most result. Denials can turn into approvals, and that'll take time, but a lot of contractors feel married to every single job. You need to set expectations with your customers. That way they'll know, hey, if we don't get an approval from the insurance company right away, it could be a long road of a few months working with a public adjuster or a supplement service. Or we can go back to retail, we can drop the price marginally and even do financing. So leverage those referrals to public adjusters and supplement services, and then know your numbers and what makes sense for you in your area, where your retail prices and your insurance prices are. It's going to make more sense to spend more time on that 47 square Dutch hip with turret extensions and a detached pool barn than maybe the 1950s home that's 10 squares with a 412 gable. You don't want to go first when it comes to estimating. You want to let the insurance company go first, and then that way you can work them up rather than them working you down. Let them create the floor that you can then build your estimate upon because you're playing by their rules, and it's going to apply a lot more to their estimating practices. They have adjuster guidelines that they need to follow, and you can sort of pick those apart and approach it strategically. Now, some exceptions to this rule are for cost incurred items. When you're dealing with tree debris removal or emergency tarping, any type of mitigation of further damages, this is the homeowner's responsibility, and they're obligated to contractually obtain these services. And so if you estimate in a way that is going to be profitable in these categories and then give the homeowner an invoice that's paid already, that's going to be a whole lot harder for the insurance company to talk you down. Now, as far as negotiating with insurance companies, I would lose that term from your vocabulary. You don't want to come off as a public adjuster. In fact, you want to use something like agreed scope. This is just a mindset shift. You're talking to the adjuster about what they're interested in rather than what you're interested in. They don't really care what your bottom line is. They don't care how much profit is in a job. They care about indemnifying the insured or making them whole. So don't use terms like matching unless you're in a matching state. Use things like uniform appearance or reasonable repair. This equips the adjuster with the ammunition they need to justify damage to the insurance company. And I know because this is exactly what I did when I was an adjuster for 10 years. Now, don't skip the small stuff. When you are doing an inspection, both with an adjuster and after the adjuster's left, if you get the job after that, make sure that you're taking care of the homeowner by catching all the small damages. The ding on a gutter or the scuff on some fascia or small siding damage, a little water stain on a ceiling. These things build trust with the homeowner, and then they also help to build up a case for overhead and profit. When you're taking good care of your homeowner, not only do they give you referrals, and that's going to boost your book of business, but also you're going to get that 10 and 10 on top where you're communicating overlapping damages, the coordination required because they overlap, the complexity with all the small trades, and then the labor minimums from that when there's small jobs that are attached to this larger job. Now, that's going to build a case that gives the adjuster confidence in issuing overhead and profit. And in a lot of cases, these adjusters have to bring it to their claims management. So if you help give them the reasoning, then they'll know what to say when they're talking to their manager about why overhead and profit is merited by the claim. Now, the last thing we'll talk about before we get into the case study is scheduling your follow-ups. This is the biggest pitfall that I see contractors struggle with when dealing with insurance claims. Using something as simple as a Google Calendar, Outlook, or even a handwritten calendar. A psychological tool I use a lot of times when I get off the phone with an adjuster is asking them, when should I expect to hear back from you? This gives them the opportunity to create a soft commitment for what's a reasonable timeline based on their workload. It keeps you from following up too soon and wasting your time. And then I drive the point home with, if I don't hear back from you by then, when should I follow up? This creates a second deadline. And then when I do finally follow up and they haven't done what they said they'd do, they do sort of feel bad. And then I give them grace. I don't rub their nose in it because what it does is it creates resentment. But psychologically, if I give them grace, then they feel sort of indebted to me. And then they want to work on this claim and they want to work with me. This is how you really increase just goodwill between you and the adjuster. Now, this is where it gets a little nerdy, but it's also exciting because you start to make more money when you get into the actual estimating of the insurance claims. Now, this is almost like printing money in a way that's illegal. The insurance industry is so intentionally overcomplicated. Insurance companies want to do right by their insurance companies and their investors. So they have the money to protect their money. But if you learn how the system works, you can tap into an impressive amount of finances. Now, at risk of oversimplifying things, this is a basic claims life cycle. You get your initial estimate from the adjuster. Then you're going to follow up with your estimate, looking at their estimate, looking at the codes, the manufacturer guidelines, and the additional damages that you found to create a strategic approach for how to justify a higher price point for the job. And then you should receive an approved supplement. This is what the insurance company has approved and what they've agreed to pay. Now, they're not going to pay it all up front because you deal with depreciation, but I'm assuming you guys know about all that. Now, this is the initial roofing estimate we got on this job. You'll see that it's $13,575 for over 26 squares of roofing. I want to say that puts us at around, I think it was $518 a square. And they got some of the big items. I mean, you see drip edge, felt shingles, ridge cap, even the vents and some flashings. But there's a ton of stuff that they missed. This is in Houston, so we should be at a minimum of $650 a square, maybe even up to $950. This one wasn't steep or tall. And I put over here on the right the full totals. You'll see $17,500, almost $17,600 for the estimate. And then I want you to notice that they put $460 for the tree debris. This is their approved supplement. We went from $17,600 all the way up to $30,000. And that's because of these adjacent damages. When I said don't miss the small stuff, this is what I mean. There was some framing damage. There's a small amount of damage in the interior. There are also labor minimums that were triggered because of some of these small damages. And then we brought the tree debris up to $4,000. And you'll see that that is because of the way that we broke it down, $3,500 to take it off the structure and $500 to haul it off. Our costs at this point were right around $9,000 to get all this work done, plus $2,500 was our out-of-pocket expense for the tree debris removal because we subcontracted it. So that puts us at about $11,500. So our total profit would be, what is that, $18,500? That's pretty good. And we were comfortable leaving it here. Okay, so this is our roofing estimate over on the left-hand side, and our estimate total is on the right. This is as close to sharing my secrets as it gets. I do want to point out a couple of items to you on the estimate that you'll want to consider. But first, I want to emphasize that if you just take this and apply it to your estimates and see what you can do differently in terms of your strategy and methodology, this is going to make you a ton of money. Lines number 2 and 3 do have some duplicate felt. This was because of a conversation with the adjuster. I don't believe that this was a low slope roof, but they wanted pricing both ways. Line 2 being how State Farm would quote it. Line 3, adjusters would normally deduct ice and water shield from. If you pay attention to line 7, this is applied roofing sealant or cement per lineal foot. This used to be included in the assumption for starter course, and Exactame stopped doing that 3 years ago. What ended up happening was it created a great opportunity for me to then put this in as a line item, and I could reverse negotiate myself because most insurance companies do not want to pay for this. So I reverse negotiate, explaining, hey, this is what we're going to do because it needs to be done. But I get that it's probably not going to be included and you should take it off the estimate. At that point, it puts them in this awkward position of either opposing me by negotiating me up or agreeing with me. And either way, in a negotiation, I win. On the estimating totals, this is reasonably close to what they actually approved. I shoot for just higher than where I think the insurance company is going to land. That way, once they feel good about getting us down a few $1,000s, we're happy with where our profits were. At which point we went to go put the roof on this house and another tree fell on the structure, which caused additional damages and an additional claim. So this set our timeline back. We quickly negotiated this one within maybe just a couple weeks, and we got overhead and profit as well because we already had it, and this just added to the complexity, and it resulted in another $17,000. I did point out to the adjuster that there were overlapping items on the roof and use that as leverage to then get additional coverage for tree debris removal and some other items that they were being a little tough on. And there you have it. Those are the 5 techniques for how to make more money in roofing claims, and then also how to apply them in real time. This helped us take this job from the 17.6 all the way up to 45. If you're ready to start making more money on your roofing claims, then reach out to me. Let me know what kind of results you're getting applying these techniques, as well as if you have any trouble figuring out how to do it on a job that you've got. If you're interested in getting the actual full documents, I can send you the redacted estimates for this job, as well as this presentation or whatever would be helpful to you. I'm looking forward to this helping you guys make a ton of money.